think it's from a video game or something.
Possibly. I remember it from a movie.
Oh yeah, the movie. Oh,
that cartoon looks a little bit like John Leguizamo.
I'm talking about the cartoon. Oh yeah.
Just a little bit though. Not exactly.
Yeah, speaking of bad movies, we're talking about other hero movies. Well, I digress. We'll get to some Magic first. We'll talk about it in a minute.
So Joe leads off with an island. Ben is going to start off with I think that's a Thoughtseize.
That is a Thoughtseize.
He's got Black Border Duels and altered Alexi Bricklot Thoughtseize, so might be a little bit fanciful this round. We'll try and help you identifying all the cards. Joe Bass has decided to Spell Pierce the Thoughtseize and then played a basic Plains as his second land drop as Ben plays Ponder, likely searching for another land. He is only running 19. Again, this is a Bug Delver deck.
And exactly what I was afraid Joseph would run into is Abrupt Decay, 4 of in this deck. And your combo is fragile. And on air earlier, I was talking with Cedric about how awful those cards are separately. Top sounds like it's cool. It used to be pretty good. And Legacy, believe it or not, it might be a little bit slow in my opinion. I mean, I could run top if I wanted to, but Ponder and Brainstorm are just strictly better because you don't have to use the same mana involvement as well. Counterbalance by itself, not so good. Blind flipping, I mean, you can Brainstorm response, put some cards back and do some things, but for the most part, you have Abrupt Decay, which is just kind of going to disrupt that, can't stop it, can't counter it, can't do anything. It's just going to happen.
As we see, Ben Guillern has cracked a Polluted Delta to go find an Underground Sea. Play a Thoughtseize, just like we did on the first turn, and that hand is going to reveal Counterbalance, Jace, Counter Spell, and 2 copies of Swords to Plowshares.
Now, not knowing what's in Benjamin's hand, I don't know what to take here. A lot of times you take Jace and call it a day, but Joe's doesn't have any double blue, doesn't have any other lands in his hand. This is the true negative of playing a deck with so many basics. You play 7 basics in your deck, you can't get mad when you have a blue and a white instead of blue, blue, or white, white when you need it. And you see some hipsters playing, what's that, the blue-white filter land. It just escapes me from
Mystic Gate.
Mystic Gate as a card that you can kind of filter through. And here is the Divining Top.
That's a good one to find on top. That's going to be able to dig Joe out of his current mana predicament. Although Joe has 23 lands. It's not too bad.
Yeah, definitely 23 land, and Legacy is like 28. So
here we have a Guru Altered Brainstorm.
Yeah, we are very, very artistically inclined on Benjamin's side of the board here. And it looks like he's got just a handful. He's flipping his cards pretty quickly, but he does have Tropical Island, Tarmogoyf, and a bunch of blue cards. So we're about to see Tarmogoyf hit the board, and it does.
Let's be honest, Tarmogoyf is a blue card.
It's a blue card. Yeah, I mean, basically the control decks play 4 Tarmogoyf, so you might as well. He's a honorary blue card.
This is going to be a 4/5 Tarmogoyf. We have Enchantment already in the bin from that Counterbalance, as well as Spell Pierce and Thoughtseize plus the fetch land.
Yeah, and again, this is actually the deck where True Name Nemesis doesn't really do much because the removal suite is 3 Terminus, which is easily dispatches the 3/1. Sword can't hit it, but then again, Joseph has enough work with the swords where he hits Delvers and Tarmogoyf. I don't know how much I like True Name Nemesis in this deck because even though you can't sword it, it's not like the swords are dead. They're busy targeting all those other deadly creatures that your opponent has. But it feels kind of like a nimble mongoose for 3, you know?
Yeah.
Real tough to kill, need kind of mass removal in order to deal with it.
So 4 damage from the Tarmogoyf comes in, drops Joe to 16, and then one of the copies of Swords to Plowshares is going to remove the Goyf. Ben decides to not fight over the swords, and instead life totals will be 21 to 16. Joe is also going to use the top at end of turn.
Ooh.
And in response to a fetch land activation, Abrupt Decay, and in response to the Abrupt Decay, Joe is going to put the top on top, but it will then be shuffled away,
right,
effectively getting rid of the top for all intents and purposes,
right,
as Ben wanted to get rid of.
Right, and you come to the decision where do you want that land or the top, and it's an easy choice for Joe. He's been missing land drops. You take the land every time.
Yeah.
Now we're down to having Counterbalance in hand without a top to go with it.
He discarded the Counterbalance.
Okay,
I
it's
believe.
gone.
So
yeah, right.
the 4 cards that the 3 cards that we know of that are in Joe's hand are Swords to Plowshares, Jace, and Counterspell.
Okay, and so a 4th land there would have been nice for a little Jace action, but I think Benjamin has a Counterspell in his hand.
He does also have a copy of True Name Nemesis. He does have a Daze.
Okay, yeah, I saw some kind of counter magic-y thing in his hand here. So Brainstorm's resolving. Let's see what we find. I don't
Looks
know.
like he found a top and a Counterbalance among that Brainstorm.
Yeah, why not?
So should he be able to find the opportunity, he will be able to do that. It's not like Ben has a huge clock in play currently,
Right.
although
Right.
that True Name Nemesis is going to cause a ton of problems as the game progresses.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't sort it, but luckily Joe does have the tools to deal with it. A lot of decks don't have the tools. Having Terminus is definitely a godsend for him to have
Absolutely.
an answer for it. So.
The blue-white-red control deck was very popular on the Open Series for about 8 months, just because it could answer so much.
Yeah.
Alex Binnick won, I believe, the first of it was 3 Legacy Opens over the course of 5 Opens that blue-white-red control decks won.
It's not bad.
It was a very
bad numbers.
powerful effect, had a very powerful effect on the metagame, as we see True Name Nemesis is going to resolve. Joe Bass, all he can do is draw a card and pass, and the True Name Nemesis going to start to go to work on Joe's life total. It's going to be a tough one to deal with, although Joe does have Terminus.
Yes.
Does he? And he also has 1 copy of Supreme Verdict.
Yes. So he has ways to deal with it. He has mass removal. But that's about it. I like the 1 misdirection in his deck. It's kind of cool. It's good against Abrupt Decay also. If you're playing as Abrupt Decay, my counterbalance. Well, hey, I have this main deck misdirection, and how about we kill something else instead? And that would actually kill True Name Nemesis because it would be his Abrupt Decay.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a very tricky way to be able to deal with True Name Nemesis. It also deals with Hymn to Torok, Ancestral Vision,
Yeah, a lot of good stuff.
and Counterspell Wars. It's just
Yeah.
another Force of Will if there's a Force of Will battle happening.
Right. Right.
Ben, I believe this is how many of his games have gone. He played an early threat, either a Delver or a Deathray Shaman or a Tarmogoyf. It died, he let it die, and then True Name Nemesis came down and finished the job. So Joe is going to need to be able to find one of his 4 sweepers. He does have 3 Terminus and 1 Supreme Verdict. And then he's going to have to resolve it if it's a Terminus,
Right,
which is
right.
going to be no easy task considering the Delver modus operandi, which is lots of tempo counter spells. As we see, he does have a Force of Will in hand
Force of
with
Will,
the blue spell
Ponder,
backup.
Daze, and then something. Definitely an arsenal of good things.
There's another Thoughtseize.
All right, so counterbalance trigger, and it does
It's a
not.
Batterskull. Now, Batterskull is an interesting card for if he had the mana.
Right.
It can actually race a True Name Nemesis,
It could.
either by the True Name being forced to jump block it,
Right.
or
Also-
by actually dealing a ton of damage.
Also, if he was able to float that Batterskull on top somehow, that would be able to answer the Force of Will in Benjamin's hand with the counterbalance trigger.
Yeah.
If he gets
And
to
so
an
this
opportunity to
Force of
kill
Will
something.
that Joe just
Ooh, that's
used
bad news.
countered the Thoughtseize, and then Ben could not use his own Force of Will to counter it, but, again, True Name Nemesis.
There it is.
He knows Joseph Bass's true
Well,
name.
I think he had a verdict in his hand, but just didn't ever have the 4th land.
Yep.
So he actually had the verdict, which is interesting. I mean, 1 land away, especially when he brainstormed, we saw the counterbalance on top. If he would have hit a land in any of those top 3 cards, he would have been pretty smooth
Would have
sailing.
been in much better shape, absolutely, if he had gotten the 1 copy that he needed. Does he have any more in the sideboard? Any more Supreme Verdicts?
He
The
does not.
uncounterable
He has
Wrath of
another
God?
Terminus, but only the 1 verdict. Yeah, last time I checked, Supreme Verdict can't be countered. Last time I looked at the card. I pretty much look at it every day of my life. So. I mean, definitely, I know the text on that card pretty well. Don't know the flavor text on a lot of these cards, but I know
Sure.
destroys a lot of creatures and they can't cannot be countered there.
So Joe also has access to a Rest in Peace, very powerful against anything with Tarmogoyf. He can probably suspect Deathrite Shaman because he saw black and green mana.
Yeah.
He's also got Path to Exile, kind of. Actually, it's fine against Ben's deck because he doesn't have any basics.
Yeah, I think the 4 swords probably will do it. The Rest in Peace I bring in because he only has 1. Engineer Explosives is another answer that he can kill.
The True Name Nemesis, yes, because he
with
does
a-
have the 3 mana. Last round, we covered a blue-black Death Shadow deck that had Engineered Explosives in the sideboard, but not access to a 3rd mana.
Yeah, but if you don't have 3 mana, it does nothing. And then
Or
maybe
third color of
I'll
mana.
definitely bring in the other Vindo and Click as well because that can also deal with Nemesis and also deal with just other good stuff as well. You're playing against bugs, so you're battling against things like Abrupt Decay and Thought Seizes and Hand Disruption. So you want to leave some of your counter magic in, but I don't think Force of Will is very good against this deck.
Now, on Ben's side of the board, we have some very interesting cards that are very good in very specific situations, and one of them that I want to definitely point out is Winter Orb. We've got a copy of Winter Orb in the sideboard for matches, well, very similar to a control matchup. Perhaps somebody playing Miracles. Punishes big spell decks. or
Winter
decks
Orb
that-
is a funny one.
It is. It's. I actually think that it should be played in Rug Delver sideboards about half the time, depending on the metagame. It's very good against the mana-hungry decks
Yep.
Of the format. Anything with Jace in it is very, very punished by a Winter Orb.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to see that card on the other side of the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are cards more scary. There's some cards in Magic that I'm glad. This is why I'm glad Stoneblade's not so popular and just not played at all. Is because cards like Choke would be more prevalent. Sulfur Elemental. I used to play against, in the top 4 of my first Invitational, I played against Dread of Night in the sideboard. I mean, who plays that card?
I remember.
Yeah.
Nick Spagnuolo plays that card.
Yeah. And I was very bad at Legacy.
Notable guy who plays cards that you didn't know what they did in the Invitational, Nick Spagnuolo.
He also had a Knight of Soul's Betrayal in play at the same time,
Oh,
just in case, one of each.
Yeah.
So
so there's a couple other cards that Ben has access to that are pretty interesting and pretty attractive options. Liliana of the Veil is really attractive to me out of Ben's deck if his mana can support it, because against any control deck, just +1, +1, +1, +1 every turn.
Liliana Veil against control decks is pretty much lights out. Especially, I mean, you have a limited amount of time to deal with it. Something I noticed that's not in Joe's deck is Detention Sphere. And a lot of times these blue, white, red Miracle decks have at least one, and then maybe an additional one on the board, or at least one on the board to answer everything. But again, we live in a world full of abrupt decays, so why have more things that are susceptible to that uncounterable card?
I mean, there are answers that Blue White Red Miracles has access to if they could find room in their 75, but Joe's not playing something like Moat, he's not playing Humility, there's just not enough room for all of these beautiful one-ofs that you want in the control deck. And so, because there's not 20 sideboard slots, there's only 15, he doesn't have the ideal answers to True Name Nemesis. Depending on how much of an impact the True Name has on the Legacy format, and so far today we've seen it have a big impact, the decks like Blue White Red Miracles may have to shift and find answers like that.
I agree. All right, so let's see what we do here with Benjamin being on the draw this time. Joe will be on the play. Miracles on the play can do some nasty things. You can just play a top and then a counterbalance. But then again, you're playing against a deck with 4 Abrupt Decay, so do you keep in this combo? I think I would board out my counterbalances.
Really?
Because, yeah, it's just... Abrupt Decay is worthless against you if you board that out. What can he hit? He can hit Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I guess if you get rid of those counterbalances, there's nothing that the Abrupt Decays can hit, really.
And he can run like a decent control deck as well. He can still keep top in as well, because top is fine. Top can be usable without it. And if you want to Abrupt Decay my top, at least I can draw a card in response to a fetch land or something like that. But I definitely don't want the... I don't think I want the counterbalance.
So Arid Mesa went and got Tundra for Joe Bass, and he passed, playing around Stifle on the first turn. And then Ben Guillern played Bayou into Deathrite Shaman, which then the Arid Mesa was activated to go and get
land drop.
A Tundra to be able to get rid of it. And yeah, Ben is not gonna have a fun time this game. A handful of blue spells and no blue mana. Although he does have a Thoughtseize.
I think he might have mulliganed as well. I'm not sure.
Huh.
If he didn't, then he should have. Because even if he keeps a 1-land Deathrite Shaman, it's not even a fetch land, so...
It's possible that he thought that he had a blue mana. All those altered cards.
Yeah.
Blending together.
Punished by the altered.
It's possible.
My cards are altered too, but usually with just like crease marks and burn marks and shuffle marks.
Altered is an interesting word for that.
Yeah.
So, in response to the Thoughtseize, Joe Bass is going to play Vendilion Click. See if that resolves.
I think it probably will.
And Joe is going to decide who he's going to target with that click.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to give Ben another bite at the apple to try and find another land.
Yeah, I definitely would target myself. I don't care what he has in his hand, and he will. I don't think he need to reveal... Yeah, I don't think he has to reveal his hand.
He just reveal I think he just shows himself his own hand.
Yeah, he can reveal his own card.
He can do that, but you know what?
No,
we're being fanciful. Doesn't matter.
He's seeing it anyway because of the Thoughtseize. So
yeah. And so Thoughtseize can take either Counterspell, Red Elemental Blast, Venser, or Batterskull.
I think you take Venser.
I think you take Venser as well, although he's going to take the Counterspell because he can't currently cast the Venser.
Right.
Venser Caracas is an extremely potent combination.
I don't want to see that.
That's a good answer for True Name Nemesis. Just keep True Name Nemesis on the stack for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I'm scared of that combo there. I would get rid of that. Oh, and he draws Jace.
Yep, does not find the 4th mana.
He, however, does have Caracas Vendilion Click, so
yeah.
He's definitely in good shape.
Ben does find the land he needed. He finds Verdant Catacombs on top.
Hopefully he's not going to get... He puts Abrupt Decay in front of his hand. Hopefully he doesn't go for this Abrupt Decay. That would be a disaster.
Yeah, that would be a unfortunate decision for Ben.
Because that old Caracas stops that from happening. And he's tapping 2.
Looks like Sylvan Library.
That's a much better play than Caracas or hitting that Vanilla.
That's another one of in Ben's sideboard that he brought in for the control matchup.
What a draw. We have the land.
Yep.
And here comes Jace Daddy, I think.
That's probably a safe assumption.
Pretty much. There's lots of things you can cast in Magic, but whenever there's option of Jace the Mind Sculptor, everything else is wrong.
Yeah, it's like if you had the option to cast Thragtusk last year.
Yeah.
Like if it was in your hand and you had another spell, about 80% of the time was correct to cast Thragtusk.
Yeah.
I'd say it's probably about 60% of the time it's correct to cast Jace. Although in this case, keeping up the Venser to be able to
he's going to bounce.
Bounce the library to be able to keep Ben from fixing his draws.
Epashaw. He's at 12 life. Knock yourself out. I mean, this is the kind of situation where if you Sylvan Library, you pay some life. I dare you.
Well, he also gets he gets a free top activation.
Yeah,
also.
I don't mind. I don't know how many answers Benjamin has to resolve Jace. Does he have anything? No, he has no answer.
No,
He's
I
just
guess
dead
not.
to it.
He's just dead to a resolve Jace.
Yeah.
Although, who isn't?
Yeah.
I mean, the main thing is that the tempo decks don't really see themselves coming back from Jace coming down before they play or attack with any 1-drops.
Right, yeah. This is a perfect scenario where Jace would be out. I mean, it's not bad to play the Venser. It's not, but it's kind of like, how do I want to win this match?
Right.
I say, in this case, Jace would have been better, but Venser's fine too.
Yeah, Joe just wants to lean and deal as much damage as he possibly can.
Drew Force of Will, so now this game is about over. Does he have a blue card to go with?
Yes.
He has the
he has the Jace.
Well, no, I think we would definitely still play Jace here.
Oh, sure. He's just going to leave it all up, though. Leave up Counterspell as well as Force with Jace.
Joseph is not playing the Jace, and it's making me upset.
He's playing the tempo game now. This is what I said. He just played out the power, and he's just playing the tempo game.
He's not, and again, I don't think he's wrong, but it hurts me a little bit, that's all.
Sure.
I just want to see Jace on the board. I want to see
I've seen Joe win games like this in the past where he just counters, just puts some power on the board, especially when he has the Geist of St. Traft draw, when he used to run that card in his sideboard.
No, Jace.
In the control mirror, as we see Jace hit the bin from a Thoughtseize.
What's he at, 5?
He is at 5, so he's just going to fall and lose to his own damage there. Fall on his own Picard.
Yeah.
Or Petard, sorry. Picard.
Picard,
fall on his own Jean-Luc
Picard. Yeah, that's a new one.
Yeah.
Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah, that's so we're going to go off to
Star Wars,
Star
right?
Trek.
Star
Oh,
Wars.
come on now.
I'm kidding.
Jeez.
I love the Next Generation.
Make
I'm kidding.
me want to kill myself.
He's Professor X, right?
That was a good
That's
troll.
what you're
Yeah,
talking about?
that was a good troll. You got me. Should take my own advice. I can't believe I did that.
Yeah, no, you don't feed the trolls.
Let's move on to Game 3, where Ben Guillern with the tempo deck is going to be on the play, and so he has an opportunity to leverage his tempo advantage. Cards like Flusterstorm, Spell Pierce are going to be much better on the play, of course, than on the draw. And if he took out his Dazes, which I know several people like to do when they're on the draw, they would certainly all be coming back in on the play.
Yeah, definitely. And Paul Clancy mentions on Twitter that he likes it when I can identify hipsters by their mana base, and I definitely can. I know you hipsters out there.
I can identify hipsters by their headphones.
Yeah.
Although the Beats by Dre don't really signify hipster.
No, it'd have to be some kind of
They typically signify poker player if they've got the hoodie with the sleeves rolled up and Beats by Dre.
Right, yeah, poker player's good, or more like, I guess, high schooler. A lot of my high school kids have Beats by Dre, and they have a hoodie on as well. So.
As we start things out, Ben Guillern is going to play Underground Sea off of his Polluted Delta, and then play Ponder. Ponder finds a Wasteland, a Abrupt Decay, it looked like, and Hymn to Torok. Is that him? No, that's just an altered Thoughtseize.
Yeah, it's hard to.
It looks a lot like Hymn to
It's
Torok.
hard to determine what the cards are in reality here.
Yeah, I mean, it always is from high above our table here. We only see about a 15% angle looking down on them, and then when they're altered, the job is all that much more difficult. But he's going to decide to draw the Abrupt Decay and keep them on top.
And Joe draws Batterskull. Being a Stoneblade player, it's nothing worse than when you draw the Batterskull.
Well, he has a Brainstorm in hand, so it's not too bad.
Right.
Unless it gets Thoughtseized here.
Yeah. He definitely is going to brainstorm a response to that jazz here.
Yeah. So another polluted Delta and a Tarmogoyf. This is going to go get a Bayou, almost certainly.
Yep.
Possibly could go get Tropical Island, which it does. Benjamin does have an interesting, spicy little one-of, by the way. He has a breeding pool. Just in case his Tropical Islands get surgically extracted, he'll still have green and blue mana.
That is hipster.
Yeah, that is pretty
We
hipster.
found one. We found a
Last
hipster.
round, we had a shock. We had watery graves on camera. This round, we have a breeding pool. It hasn't entered the
That
battlefield
is just
yet.
never okay.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so. Actually, I was being a hipster also when I copied Tom Martell's list and I had a Glacial Fortress, one of them in my deck, in case there was a choke somewhere in the room.
Sure.
I cut that for a Tundra. Let's be serious here.
Okay.
Let's be real.
Well, being a fifth, or I guess he only has 2 tropical islands, so it's a third. He could run a third if he
Could
wanted
run a
to,
Trop
but
Island.
he isn't.
He is not. Okay.
That's interesting.
You know, I don't wish. I hope for the best for Benjamin here. I want him to win. I want him to top 8. I want him to win the whole tournament. However, if he does shock himself to death by that breeding pool once, that is what we call irony.
Yeah.
Irony.
So Sylvan Library is going to go onto the stack. Joe, I think, is going to try and counter it, which means that Tarmogoyf is going to grow 3 sizes that day,
Yep.
putting enchantment and instant into the graveyard in the process. Although you'd much rather have a lonesome Tarmogoyf than a Tarmogoyf and a Sylvan Library.
Tarmogoyf's been known to get big real quick.
It does. Although Blue-White Red Miracles is not afraid of just one Tarmogoyf, again. So if he's able to just use a Swords to Plowshares to deal with it, it's not going to target a True Name Nemesis. What else is it going to do?
Yep, that's pretty much destroy target Tarmogoyf. I mean, Delver obviously is scary as well. I haven't even seen a Delver. Maybe this deck list is wrong. I haven't seen one any of these games. So there's someone in there somewhere. And Wasteland targeting Volcanic Island, who's going to float a blue in response or a red.
Probably a blue. And there is Brainstorm. Be able to cash in on that mana. Finds another Brainstorm.
He does have a
Scalding
sword.
Tarn.
He does have a sword in his hand. Somewhere in the middle of that hand, there's he can turn that Tarmogoyf into a farmer, send him back to the farm. It's a very
I
peaceful
used to
card.
be a 4/5, but then I took an arrow to the knee.
And then what does that make you after that?
Well, it makes me a farmer, I guess. So Joe has resolved his Brainstorm, I do believe, and now Ben is deciding whether or not he wants to try and cast his True Name Nemesis, which he decides to do. Joe did cast Counterspell once already this game, so the number of Counterspells remaining in his deck is surely low.
Right.
Joe only has 2 in the main deck, so
Obviously, off that Brainstorm, a Terminus would have been ideal.
yeah.
I don't think we saw one.
I think he has one in his hand currently, so if he wants to, he can use the new Brainstorm that he drew,
Right, which is going to
put
be
the
amazing.
Terminus back on top, and deal with both of the creatures.
I like this play a lot, so you just take this then, definitely.
Yeah.
If he has a Terminus in his hand, this is the easy decision.
So Joe will fall to 11.
Oh, no.
Nope, he will not fall to 11.
Yeah, if he wants to gain 4 life with that sword, I guess it's not the worst thing in the world. Maybe he doesn't have the Terminus. Maybe we missed it. You see.
Nope, there it is.
Nah, I don't like that.
Just in case one of them gets countered, I guess he's trying to hedge his bets.
He only has 2 cards in hand. It would have to be Force of Will plus blue card. Pretty unlikely, I think.
So Joe's going to play land number 3. It is a Scalding Tarn. Ben top decks Wasteland to be able to take out the Tundra, keep Joe back on mana, and then he's also going to play Ponder to be able to rebuild.
Oh, and you see the card in Benjamin's hand, Abrupt Decay, and I bet you Joe
And
boarded
Joe
out those
took out all of his
counterbalances.
counterbalances.
Yep.
I like the play.
Yes, this is one of those, and I don't really play, but this style of deck, more of a Stoneblade guy, of course, as many as you know. But when you think about cards that people bring in, like, I have Blood Baron in my standard deck. You better leave in Supreme Verdict, and you see it, and you Supreme Verdict, you feel happy. Game 3, sometimes I board out Blood Baron if I was
Right.
that guy. Just why not? You have all these dead Supreme Verdicts in your deck.
So we were talking about bringing in Rest in Peace from Joe Bass's side of the board. Would you just bring it in as a remove all graveyards from the game one-shot effect, even if it gets Abrupt Decayed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it.
So that's still worth bringing in.
Yeah, because let me rephrase, or let me rethink this. I would do it if I had enough cards to board out where it wouldn't be a valuable card. I wouldn't take out anything vital for it. It would just be kind of like a a mediocre Sword to Plowshare there for a Tarmogoyf, maybe. Actually, on second thought, I don't think I would. Because he already has 4 swords, and then he has a path if he needs to have additional removal.
Sure.
If he was playing Nimble Mongoose, then it would be an easy decision.
Yeah.
Right now, the Goyf is not enough for that.
But True Name Nemesis is our Nimble Mongoose these days.
It is. It is very hard to deal with.
So Joe Bass used the fetch land to shuffle away some chaff. He's using another island to play a Brainstorm. We're in the middle of resolving that Brainstorm now.
Look how many cards Joe has in his hand.
He's probably got about 6 or 7 before he puts 2 cards back.
I wouldn't force this if I was him. You just let this resolve.
Just let the Thoughtseize resolve. Hide. Well, I think he might have 2 copies of Jace.
Then you don't need to. Then you leave them both.
Yeah.
In.
So he's going to show the one. Oh, he's going to show 3 copies of Jace to Ben.
I have all the Jaces.
You go ahead. You go ahead and pick one of those, buddy.
I have all the Jaces. All right, so Joe's in a pretty good shape here because we know that Ben just has a Abrupt Decay in his hand, which is pretty much a dead card.
Yep.
All right, let's see what we got here. 1 land away, but we know that Joe doesn't have a land on top.
And Ben is not providing any pressure is the main thing here. If there was a Delver Seekers, or even if there was just a Deathrite Shaman, the story would be completely different because at least there would be some amount of pressure coming down. As now we have True Name Nemesis, which is going to get forced with the second Jace.
Now, you crack this fetch land because he knows he has a Sword of Plowshare on top, and all you want to do is draw a land.
Yes.
Crack this, get a basic Plains, and then you hit a 4th land, and you pretty much win the game because we know that Benjamin doesn't have really an answer for that.
Yep. Joe is... he doesn't have to top deck at this turn. He does have a couple turns. It's ideal
so
if
he
top decks at
Thoughtseize
this turn.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
We'll find out here.
So, Joe using all 3 of his Jaces. One of them getting Thoughtseized, one of them removed to Force Will. All of the best qualities of Jace. It's something your opponent wants to take with Thoughtseize. It's blue for Force Will. Oh, and also, by the way, it has a million abilities.
Yeah, also, and there's the 4th land.
Yeah, and there's the island. Well, look at that.
Blank
board. Powerful.
Oh, I do not like the Fate Seal here.
You don't?
No, you don't need to. Like, for example, when you have no cards in hand, it's Brainstorm time. You only start Fate Sealing when you have full control of the game, because you put a card on bottom, then he draws like a True Fire Nemesis or True Name Nemesis. You're going to lose the game. You want to just brainstorm away, and then once you have a few answers in your hand, then you start Fate Sealing.
Well, he is aggressively Fate Sealing. He's going way up top. Luckily, all of the things he's looked at, he's wanted to let Ben keep on top of his deck. That one we're going to put on the bottom.
Here's a perfect example if Joe didn't draw, or if Ben did have like something like a Maelstrom Pulse in his deck, which he doesn't have, and he's going to extend the hand. Yeah, so Jace, he ticks all the way up. I guess Joe just wants to go get a bite to eat or something. So it's like, I'll ultimate it in 10 seconds here.
Well, again, like we said, Ben didn't have a really good way to deal